Okay, so what we're doing here, or what I'm doing here, is setting up a new site on the CrowdWater app at a river in Oughterard in County Galway. So at this site we're close to the river's edge, but we're not in any danger of falling in, which is important. Once you get to your new site, you need to open up the app on your phone. I'll just do that. Once we have the app open up, it should select the position that you are in, and if it doesn't, you need to move the map so that you are at the right position. So once your GPS is turned on your phone, it should select the right position. Once you've done that, what you do to set up your new spot is you press the white plus button at the very bottom of the app. It will ask if you want to start a new spot, so I'm going to start a new spot. When we're starting a new spot, again you'll see the position on the map. It may not be in exactly the right position, so it's not exactly right here, so I'm just moving it on the map to the right position. What we then want to do is select the type of category that we're going to set up. So for this project, what we're setting up is a virtual staff gauge. So I select virtual staff gauge. Then the next step is to upload a picture of the site. You can upload a picture by selecting the camera icon on the bottom right of the app, so I'm going to do that. Then that should allow you to take a picture of your site. So what you want to do is you want to take a picture perpendicular to the direction of flow. You want to make sure that the river surface is horizontal in your picture. And you want to try and make sure that there are some reference objects on the far bank that will allow you to track changes in water level, so that you can use those reference objects to determine whether the water level goes up or down when you visit it the next time, or you visit this same site on a following occasion. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture. Okay, so once you've taken your picture, you can go back to the app. It should automatically, it should ask if you're happy with your picture or if you want to go again. So I'm just going to say okay. Okay, so once you've got your picture, the next step is to put a virtual staff gauge on that picture. You've got three choices. You've got a green gauge, which you'd select if you thought the water level was currently quite low. You've got a yellow gauge, which you select if you think the water level is about standard, what it normally is, a medium water level. And you've got a red gauge if you think the current water level is quite high. So at the moment, the water level seems relatively low here. So I'm going to select the green gauge. Once you select the gauge, it will put that gauge in the middle of your picture. And the next thing you need to do is move it so that the water level is lined up with the water level on the far bank. So there's a little blue squiggly line on the gauge which signifies the water level. So I'm going to move this to the far bank. Sorry, I just need to zoom in to have a look. Okay, so you can zoom in on your picture if it makes it easier. So I've lined it up with the current water level. The next thing you need to do is to change the size of the gauge. Okay, so you can make it bigger or you can make it smaller. Okay, what you're trying to do when you're changing the size is to make sure that these different water level categories, that you can use them to track rises or falls in water level. So you want the gauge to be big enough that it will track most of the rises, so you're able to track the rises, that the rise in water level isn't going to go above your gauge, for example. However, you also want it small enough so that the water level will go into different water level categories when there is a rise or a drop, a natural rise or drop in your river. So it's slightly subjective. You're trying to make the gauge big enough that it will track the average changes in water level, but also small enough so that you are able to track relatively small, I suppose, changes in water level as well. What you want when you're coming to a site is, if there is a rise in water level, that you will be able to pick that rise up on the gauge, that your water level will move into these different categories. So it is a little bit subjective. Okay, so I'm just going to try and determine how much the water level might rise, making sure, so that's too much, and bringing it down again, making sure that the water level is still lined up with the actual water level on the river. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and change the size of the gauge, and I'm going to zoom out again. Okay, so that's my gauge setup. Once you've done that, you can click OK. Okay, so it then has your picture saved. You can scroll down to the bottom. There are advanced options. You don't need to worry about the advanced options. There are places to leave a comment. You don't need to worry about that. Maybe in the future, when you're taking a measurement, you might need to leave a comment if, for example, the water level has gone above the level of your gauge. Sorry, that's okay. You just need to make sure that the date and time are okay. They should be okay because they're taking that from your phone. Again, just before you save, make sure that the location is correct on the map, and then you can hit save. And that is saved. You should get a message thanking you for your contribution, and that is your site set up. So you've got that site set up, and then you should be able to come back to this site in the future and take new measurements from it.
Okay, so hopefully you have noticed that there may be some issues with the site that I set up. Firstly, weather conditions were poor when I was setting up the site, so it was difficult for me to see both the far bank of the river and my phone screen. So as a result, the virtual gauge is not lined up perfectly with the current water level of the river. If you aren't happy with your site setup, there is an option to delete it even after you've saved it and then start again. But you should do this straight away. So check your site. If you need to delete it, do it straight away. You don't want to decide that you need to delete your site and start again after you've already taken some water level measurements at that site. I'll demonstrate how to delete a site in a few minutes. But just some advice in relation to this. So you should try to set up your site and to take measurements in relatively good weather conditions so that you can see and photograph the far bank clearly. Another potential issue with this photograph is that there are not enough obvious reference objects, such as rocks, for example, in the background to allow me to track rises and falls in water level at that site. Another potential issue is that the virtual gauge may still be too large to pick up the usual changes in water level at that site. So, for example, if there is a change in water level at your site, you want to be able to pick it up on the virtual gauge. So if there has been an obvious change in water level, you should be able to pick a water level category other than 0 on the app. So you should be able to pick +1, +2, or -1, -2, and so on. So advice in relation to this, make sure that the gauge is small enough to allow you to pick up obvious changes in water level at your site. On the other hand, don't make your gauge so small that as soon as there is a major change in water level, it is outside the range of your virtual gauge. Okay, so that's just some advice in relation to your site setup. Another piece of advice that I will give you is I would advise you to take part in the CrowdWater game. So the CrowdWater game is available on the CrowdWater site if you select it here. You have the option of joining the game. There are instructions about the game here as well. Okay, so I recommend that you play that game. So in the game, you will be given a number of sites to assess by comparing a recent photo taken by a citizen scientist at the site with the original photo of the site and its virtual staff gauge. In the game, you'll have to choose a water level category for the new photo by comparing it to the original photo. Now, it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. The same photos are scored by many different people, and then the median score from all of those assessments is calculated and used. So some wrong assessments won't affect that overall median score. And the reason it's a good idea to play the game is that it will give you practice doing what you will have to do when you revisit your own site. So you will have to compare the current water level with the water level in your original photo and then select the most appropriate current water level category on the CrowdWater app. Another reason for playing the game is that it should also give you an idea of how to take good photos of a site originally and on each of your subsequent visits to allow you and others to determine as easily as possible if water levels have changed at the site. It should also give you an idea of what types of objects are good reference objects to have in the background of your photos to allow you to assess changes in water levels. So yeah, I recommend you play the game at least once before you take measurements. There is a tutorial on the CrowdWater site, a tutorial video that will give you a clear explanation of how to play the game. So you should watch that video before playing the CrowdWater game. But as we can see here, you've got the original image with the virtual staff gauge on it. You've got a recent photo of the site. And what you have to do in the game is to choose the appropriate water level category for that new image. So yes, I strongly recommend that you play that game. If after saving your spot you are not happy with it or you think you have done something incorrectly and you want to start again, there is an option to delete the spot. So if you click on your spot, click on the menu or setting symbol over on the right hand side, you will get options to delete the spot. So if you need to do that, you can and start again. However, if you want to delete a spot, you should do it straight away because once it's uploaded to the CrowdWater site, it could be locked quite quickly and you may not be able to make any changes.
Okay, so this is a spot that I set up a while ago. So what I'm going to do here is take a new measurement at this spot. So once you've got your spot up, you should be able to find it on the CrowdWater app. So okay, so we're going to take a new measurement at a spot that I set up previously. So once you get to your spot, you open up your CrowdWater app. Again, if your GPS is working properly, it should pick up your location. You can press on this button up on the top right to zoom in on your own location. So I've done that. I'm just zooming in a bit. It is picking up the spot I set up previously on the map. So all I have to do is select that spot, and then it will give you information about that spot. What we want to do now, and what you'll want to do, is take new measurements, and we're looking to take new measurements more or less weekly, so approximately weekly. So to take a new measurement at a spot that's already set up, you can press the plus button on the map. Once you've done that, it should then give you options for taking new measurements. So, firstly, we can look at our original image if we scroll down. So we open up our original image. What we should get then is our image from when we set up the spot with our virtual staff gauge on that image. And what you want to do, what we want to do now, is look at that virtual staff gauge, compare the original image with the situation as it is right now, and determine whether the water levels have dropped, whether they're still the same, or whether they have risen. And we do that by comparing the original image using whatever objects we have as reference objects in our image to the situation right now, and determining what the new water level is. So I'm comparing this image on my phone with the situation at the moment. It looks like there hasn't been a change in water level since I set up this original image, or the comparison. It's not different to what it was like at the original image, so I would select 0 in this case because there's been no change. Okay, so I'm going to go back from the image. Underneath the image we can choose how the water level has changed. So because there's been no change, I'm selecting 0. You should get a tick to show what you've selected. We should also take a new image, so we can select the camera icon again. And on our phone camera, we want to take an image similar to the original image. And that will allow our record to be checked by citizen scientists, by the CrowdWater people themselves. So you can go back and correct your reading later if necessary. So I'm going to take a new image, similar to the first image. So again, perpendicular to the level of, or the direction of flow, with the river horizontal in the image. If you're happy with the image, we can just select OK. So that will save that new image. So again, OK. So we've now saved that new image. We've recorded our water level change. Again, we can ignore the advanced options. We don't need to leave a comment right now. Just again checking that the time and the date is correct, which it is. Once we're happy with that, again that our location is correct, we can just select, I've selected save. So I just clicked into the comments by accident. So again, once you've selected save and it's saved your record, you should get a message saying thanks for your contribution. Click OK, and that's that measurement saved. So this is, once you've set up your site, this is what you'll need to do, as I said, approximately weekly if you can, so that we have a good record of the changing water levels at your site over the course of our recording season.